Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. Alongside the Zarda playbook, it's Emery Hunt. I'm Tyler Merkovich. This is the 2009 Pac-10 football preview, and year after year it's been Pete Carroll and the USC Trojans. But one of the biggest upsets in all of sports last year was USC traveled to Corvallis. Oregon State knocks off USC. USC still comes back, wins every game, dominates Penn State in the Rose Bowl. They should have been in the national championship game. Are they going to keep it consistent? Mark Sanchez, three huge names on that defense lost, and a defensive tackle, Fili Moala. They're going to keep it up?
It's looking that way. You'd be hard pressed to find someone to pick against USC. 9 starters returning back on offense. You look at they got a new quarterback in Aaron Corp, sophomore. So they got Stephon Johnson back. The big running back. You look at Damian Williams. They have some weapons. They always have weapons. They're stocked at running back. Joe McKnight. Another guy back there. You have Mark Tyler, whom I like. You have C.J. Gable. A lot of good talent on the team. It's going to make the quarterback transition that much easier.
Yes, the skill positions are there again as they reload every year. Battling Corp will be highly touted Matt Barkley and Mitch Mustaine, the transfer from Arkansas. So talent is there all over the field. A lot of depth here. Offensive line, Chris O'Dowd, first team Pac-10, third team All-American Jeff Byers, left guard. This is where the bread and butter is. They bring in Joe Martinez, who's one of the top prospects in the nation as a true freshman also.
This O-line is the best O-line in the Pac-10, and some can say arguably in the country. Those big mauls up front, O'Dowd, Byers, Country, those guys have been clearing lanes for Stephon Johnson, who can be, I think, one of the top running backs in the draft this year.
Two defensive ends, they lead the Trojans' defense this year after the departures of Cushing Mayoluga, Matthews Moala. It's Everson Griffin and Devin Kennard. And then a sophomore is going to get the start at middle linebacker, Chris Gallipo. And, of course, Taylor Mays is the man in the secondary.
One thing about that defense, they gave up 9 points a game last year, 2.7 yards a rush. They lose 7 starters. All 4 linebackers are gone. So you look at what do they have. Chris Gallipo is a stud. I like him. Taylor Mays on that back end. Drew McAllister and Kevin Thomas are 2 cornerbacks that can really play the ball.
They also bring in Patrick Hall, a highly touted cornerback, to give them depth back there. Week 2, this young team, they go to Columbus, Ohio State. Thrashed Ohio State last year. Stanley Havili going up the sidelines, catching the ball, going all the way. That's in the vision and in the minds. Is it going to be a nightmare for USC this year? Or are they going to get the job done? It's going to be a good game.
That's the biggest and hardest game of the season. If they get past Ohio State, they could pretty much run the table.
They also play at Cal and at Notre Dame. Beware in Berkeley. Cal always plays USC tough in Berkeley. Speaking of Cal, 9-4 last year, 15 returning starters. Jeff Tedford in his 8th year. He's bringing the JUCOs. He plays a 3-4 defense. He brought in 3 JUCO linebackers. But when you talk about Cal, you got to talk about one guy only, offensive side of the ball, Javid Best.
His speed is unquestioned. He is blazing fast. 0 to 60, real fast, real quick. Sees every hole, vision, and he can take it the distance. I like Javid Best. That is an awesome player they have out there, Cal. He's going to keep them in a lot of ball games.
Nate Longshore out. Kevin Riley's team. It's his time now. Naeem Boateng, their wide receiver, transferred from Florida. He needs to step up. They lose Alex Mack on the offensive line, but they got 3 returning starters led by left tackle Mike Tepper.
Then you look at Chet Tafilo, another guard that's going to help out. The offensive line is a mixed bag. You look at, they may be a little bit inexperienced, a little bit inconsistent. That's going to be the big question mark, to give those guys time back there to throw the ball as well as to open up holes for Javid Best. Also, receivers, you look at Veron Tucker as well, too, so they have another talented guy on the outside. So that offensive line is a little bit inexperienced, but that's the big question. Can they get it together?
The Golden Bears, they need to bring the defense, and they're led by inside linebacker Devin Bishop. They bring in the other JUCOs, Derek Hills, their defensive tackle. But their secondary is experienced. 3 seniors, 1 junior, led by a great pro prospect, Saquon Thompson.
Saquon Thompson is a real good guy. He can get his hands on a lot of balls. He's active. He can be a lockdown corner in the Pac-10. He's a real legit pro prospect because he has speed to run with these with NFL-type wide receivers. Also, you don't want to forget about Marcus Ezell in the secondary, the safety. So they have a real solid secondary. A linebacker, they lose both their their key guys, those two studs. But they bring in JC transfer Jared Price to be that stable force. And you look on the defensive line, they run a 3-4, so the nose tackle has to be the most important player. And then you have a guy in Derek Hill that's 6'2", 306, could hold his own at the point of attack. I like the way he plays the game.
Should be interesting 3-4. Let's see if they can get the defense going up in Berkeley. But at a conference, they're going to get Maryland. They're going to pound them after what Maryland did to them last year in College Park. They travel to Minnesota. You know, Minnesota got that new stadium. Interesting game at a conference. They host Arizona, USC, and Oregon State on the road at Oregon, UCLA, and Stanford.
They might want to watch out for that Minnesota game. They could slip up at that one and lose. So they get past that. They do have Oregon on the road, and but the luxury, they get USC at home.
Exactly. Watch out, Trojans. They're due for a win against you. They've played you tough down in your stadium and at home. Will be interesting. Let's go to UCLA. Rick Neuheisel, second year, the former Washington coach. He brings in Bula as their defensive coordinator. Walker's out. He goes to New Mexico State, I believe. Quarterback problems, unbelievable last year.
Man.
They still got the job against Tennessee, but had a poor year. They needed a quarterback. Kevin Prince is going to be their quarterback. Derek Coleman, the running back. Terrence Austin, the wide receiver. 4 returning starters in the offensive line, and they bring in Richard Brayhall to give Kevin Prince a run for his money at quarterback.
Well, you look at that quarterback position. They had Kevin Prince and Kevin Kraft last year combined for 7 touchdowns and 20 interceptions. That you can't get that done, especially playing against good defenses in the Pac-10. You also look at big Derek Coleman, 6 feet 230. He's a big runner. He can pound between the tackles, balance, and he has a little bit of shiftiness with him. I like the way he moves side to side.
You sure he's not a lefty from Syracuse who throws up hook shots?
You never know. You never know. You never know. The young offensive line is inexperienced, but they do have 3 sophomores that are returning. They got beef from guard to guard. They got big size, 300 pounders from left guard to right guard. So I like the interior offensive line. So that's one thing they have to get that young offensive line up to speed to help protect that quarterback play. They need quarterback play in the worst way.
Neuheisel can recruit. He's got Xavier Suafila, one of the top linemen to bring in. And he's got 2 weapons, Morrell Presley, one of the top tight ends, and Randall Carroll, a wide receiver that needs to step up for these inexperienced quarterbacks.
Yep, and Taylor Embry and Terrence Austin, 2 good receivers they also have on the flanks.
Defense led by 2 brothers. Get to know them now. Corey Bosworth, the defensive end, and his brother, who's a linebacker, Kyle Bosworth. And, of course, Alteron Burner is their cornerback, 5'11", 190. Great pro prospect there also.
One thing about UCLA, they do have awesome secondary players. They always have good defensive players individually, but as a team, they never could get it done. You look at last year, they gave up 29 points a game, 4.4 yards a carry. You can't win like that. They have to improve that in a worse way, especially playing teams with great running backs like USC, Cal, and also Oregon State and Arizona. So they have to improve that. I love their linebackers, though. You have Akeem Ayers, Reggie Carter, Kyle Bosworth. That is a great group of linebackers. Their back 7 is awesome. With the linebackers in the secondary, I like that. Up front, I have some question marks.
They open up the season at Tennessee. They won that thriller on Labor Day last year when Tennessee's Daniel Lincoln missed a field goal. Tennessee's going to want to get back at him. Kiffin, Neuheisel, good game there. They host Kansas State. Then they get a bye and they go into Pac-10 play. And they're at Stanford and at USC.
I like this schedule. It's a balanced schedule from beginning to end. So they have some peaks and valleys, but it's a manageable schedule. If they can get that defense together and find a quarterback, they'll be okay. They could surprise some people in the Pac-10.